As the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, progresses, the Department of Health and Human Services is taking away the religious freedom that all Americans are guaranteed by the First Amendment by requiring that all employers, regardless of religious conscience, provide all forms of contraception to their employees and even to minors without the knowledge of their parents. In response to this assault on the Constitution, Catholic leaders are stepping up and are searching for what can be done within the bounds of the law to deliver quality health care that follows the ethical and religious directives for Catholic health care services. The Make Straight the Pathway Conference was held in Houston, Texas in March of 2013 on the campus of the University of St. Thomas to shed light on the critical problem of providing quality health care and protecting everyone's religious freedoms.
And I just want to tell you about David Wilson, because David, I believe, is a real visionary. And you know, healthcare is difficult, but I think insurance law is more difficult. And David is truly an expert on insurance implementation and health plans, and he's going to deliver a message on getting it done. And David, this presentation could take 4 hours to really get it before you. So he's going to try to do that in about 20 minutes, and then we're going to break what we've been doing, and instead of waiting just for the panel, since you'll have these thoughts right on your mind after his presentation, we're going to let him take some questions because it'll be fresher for y'all to ask. So think about that. And you know, I think one of the things that's really critical as we're looking at ways to do things better than what we're doing now, the government at the federal level particularly, and particularly under our president, has taken the position that government can do it all, that government is the answer. We can't have our church applying that principle, not that it does, but certainly we can't do that. We can't have individual parishioners, individual professionals thinking that the government's going to do it for us. So I think David's going to give us some ideas about how we get it done as the laity. David?
So, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. And before I begin, I would just like to thank Tim and Pat for all of the work that they've completed for this meeting today. And Michael Day and Peggy O'Day, you know, have been huge in terms of many, many years of working to inform our religious community, meaning the priests and the bishops, and the laity, going back to 1996, 1997, about what was coming. So this is not news, right? It's not new. And I think, Father, yesterday, just to reiterate some of the other comments already made today, was absolutely accurate. This is an awakening moment for the church and for us as a country to reflect back on the founding principles, as we've heard already today, and respond to that challenge. The question is, are we up to the challenge? Are we really up to responding to what is required to get it done? And I like to think so, but it's not going to happen if it's just, you know, my particular practice in Oregon, or my particular effort in Michigan, or my particular effort in California, or in Boston. It's going to be about, can we actually take what we've learned historically and understand the requirements to be successful in what we're doing? Now, we can reflect on our own experience since the 70s in the pro-life movement, where we have a ton of silo kind of bifurcation of that effort. Crisis Pregnancy Center this, or Crisis Pregnancy Center that, or Billboard this, or whatever it happens to be. Ownership is critical. You all are points of light in this world. The question is, are we going to put ourselves up in heaven so we can reflect down on the rest of the society? And what's it going to take to do that? What's it going to take to come together to do this in a way that, listen, Planned Parenthood has one title, Planned Parenthood. Right? We're not going to be successful by simply having passion. Right? We're not even going to be successful by simply having craftiness or being thoughtful. It's going to require us coming together to do this. Right? So that's my biggest message to you today. Let me go to this presentation, and I'm going to try to fill this out a little bit. So what are the challenges that we have? The first is religious liberty. Why is religious liberty our first challenge? We talked about it being our first right. If I'm not free to think and worship my God, I'm not free to do anything. It's the purpose of my life. It's my existence. Life is the gift of God. Love, not the gift from God. Life is the gift of God. Love. Existence. Co-creation. Community and joy. Second to last was community. That was my point that I first made. We have to come together as community to solve this issue and respond to it effectively. Without religious liberty, can I live passionately? For me, no. Because Christ is everything for me. And in my life, every day, at everything I do, how can I help but evangelize? How can I help but, in working with the employees that have worked for me for years and years, and it's now thousands of employees over the years, how can I not reflect Christ in my business? It's what I'm here to do. Right? So if we're going to live passionately, which you all are here, you all have come here, you've spent money to come here, and every person I've talked to has passion. The question is, can we pull it together? So now we go to the next question. Legal action, we've heard about that. The lawyers, we need them. We're in a litigious society. Legislation, we need that. But the daily transaction of life is commerce. The daily transaction of life is commerce. When I get in a cab in New York, I know I'm going to pay the cab driver. Right? How I spend my money, how I utilize the fruits of my labor, right, which is a God-given, right? God gave us labor. Well, how can government tax labor? The gift is from God. But it does tax your labor. When the question was asked earlier today, when did we become the bad guys? In my own way of thinking, we became the bad guys when we said, look, it's not our responsibility, it's the bishop's responsibility, or it's the government's responsibility, and the bishop's also saying, hey, by the way, government, you take care of this for us. Charity is not compulsion. Taxation is compulsion. Charity is the active presence of God. Then why are you denying me the ability to be charitable with all the fruits of my labor? And we can go through those philosophical arguments, right? But it's really important that we understand that the transaction of daily life is commerce. And so if we don't reflect what we're doing transactionally, including clinical care, we won't get there. We're living in the world, but not of the world. Everybody in this meeting, we've heard this 2 or 3 times already today. And one of the questions John asked earlier today, one of my papers went out to 2,000 Legatus members talking about what we did in our business to actually become compliant with ACCA, all right? But to do so in a way that is a position of last resort, but frees my employees from a moral obligation or a moral liability or hazard in the decisions that they make. Great conversation. But the world in the marketplace is imperfect. The question is how are we going to respond to the challenge? Whole person, whole health, and well-being. The truth is, the best practice healthcare is Christ-centered. People talk about cost in healthcare, and people talk about, does healthcare cost too much? There's no evidence that healthcare costs too much. And we can have a long conversation about that. As Tim said, I could talk for 4 or 5 hours, maybe keep you 8 or 12. All right? But the truth is there is no evidence that healthcare costs too much. There is evidence that quality is always the lowest cost. There is evidence that quality, a caring physician, a physician that goes outside the boundaries of time constraint management forced on them by the insurance transaction expense management cycle, has great value. But when a physician does that, they're not getting paid. And that's morally wrong. Right? So when we break these things down, we really have to be very aware of all of the elements that go into why we are where we're at. But it is true that quality health care is the lowest cost health care, and best quality health care is Christ-centered health care. Why? Because the human condition requires love. Caring requires time and passion. If you as a doctor cannot give your patient time and passion, then you can't deliver caring. Right? And so the marketplace has to solve that problem. Just like we as the laity, and I'll say this to you, this is not the bishop's problem. This is our problem. And when we cast the current state onto the bishops, we make a big mistake, in my own humble opinion, because it is up to us to take active and direct responsibility and to engage the culture. Why? Because we are the culture. We elect who we elect because that's what the culture elects. The House and the Senate are a reflection of the population, not the other way around. I think Congressman Fortenberry will share that view. If you really want to change the political environment, you do have to change the culture. They're one and the same. They are not separate things. Leadership, you got it. Here you are. You are it. You're the Continental Congress. Do you realize that historically? When I go and I talk to Fortune 1000 employee benefit managers, right? Now, so you got the CEO, the senior VP of HR, the director of compensation and benefits, and then you've got all these people that are actually driving all of these decisions. Do they actually understand? And I will tell them that they are historical figures because of the dynamics of healthcare. Do you think that President Obama really cares about markets? Do you think he really cared a lot or cares a lot about the insurance industry? Or do you think he really cares a lot about healthcare itself? I'd say no to all of those questions if I was asked. What he does care about, because he does understand it, is that he who defines love, he who defines human caring in the society defines the culture of the society. He who defines health care defines the culture of the society. And he's using it. The number one thing we have to do as Catholics is become engaged in health care. I said this a little bit earlier to another couple of people. Education's two. Why health care first, education second? Because in health care, you love, right? Healthcare is the most intimate and passionate form of reward for productivity. It only tolerates moderate change, simplicity drives value, and there's no new money here. That's the axiom for healthcare management. Healthcare is the most intimate and passionate form of reward for productivity. Why have employees given up wages, given up pension, given up retirement, given up paid time off? The employer reduces their wages to afford additional cost of healthcare. Why? Why? Because it's at the center of the human relationship. Even though the individual can't really say that, they can't use those terms, they know that they love their spouse, they love their children, and they want them to be cared for. That's why. So you have an opportunity to truly have impact on the society because you're coming from the clinical side. I'm speaking specifically to the doctors. But we got to give you more time. And we got to give you more money. Everybody in primary care, we have to double to triple primary care to make the health system sustainable. How do you do that? We have a number of models that can get us there. But you're the leadership. You're also the light. But if you're just a candle on your block, as compared to being a light in the sky, we won't get there. And unless we do this in a way where we can generate income so we can sustain the effort, right? I always say this to my local bishop, really, you think of me as an ATM machine. You come by and you say, David, I got a little project. Can you go to this guy and this guy and this guy? I need $100,000. Can you do that for us? Right? And I sit back and say, Bishop, how about if we built a business that would give you $1 million a year for that? Would that be a better idea? Sustainability, the folks here a few minutes ago, what did they say? These guys are going to keep coming back at us, keep coming back at us, keep coming back at us. We need a sustainable model. What's the opportunity? Well, we're working on opportunities. We're working every day in the marketplace to drive new opportunities. Well, one is the Samaritan Health Plan, which is actually exempted from ACA. And we won't get into it, but we have some opportunities, and we're investing lots of money to create some new models of this program that could be much more mainstream in technology, and you walk around with a card and you can pay it, because if you don't have a card in your wallet, right, it's not insurance. If you don't have a card in your wallet to pay somebody, it doesn't work. Why? Because the daily transaction of life is commerce. Thank you very much. We're learning, class. We're learning. Okay. So the next thing, I don't have this on the slide, but I do want to repeat the statement that healthcare is culture defining and culture defined. Meaning that the culture defines the healthcare as well, right? So we accept contraception, right? We accept fertility and conceiving as an illness. We've accepted it as a society, right? We've accepted that definition, and it is what it is. It's not right, but we've done that. The second opportunity in the marketplace is self-insuring, all right? And you're not ever going to be too small to self-insure in the future. Why? Right? And this is really true. ACA falls on its own sword. ACA is so heavy, it destroys itself. It's important that you know that, right? There's no employer in America that should go without an employer-based health care plan under ACA. I can show you the numbers. I can go through them with you. Examples, very simple. On the exchange, a single person, okay, or family person, excuse me, will actually, between the government, what the employee pays and the employer pays, will pay $22,000 for something that costs $15,000 in the marketplace. It makes no sense. So I can go through provision by provision, but it's going to be very valuable to every employer. Would you say today that employers have a value in providing you tax-free health insurance? Would you say that's true? For most employers, that value economically triples under ACA, meaning that it's much more advantageous to that employer than ever to provide you health care coverage. Because if you go out onto the exchange, your real income diminishes by as much as 15%, and in some cases 20% in the lower wage categories. Real income expenditure, right? So as long as we know that, self-insured plans are far better than insured plans under ACA. So here I've only got a little over 50 employees and I'm self-insuring. Why? Because I can simply say under self-insured plan that I'm not going to comply with ACA relative to that insured plan. I've got control of that plan. And the contributions my employees make to that plan, right? They don't have a moral consequence. They're participating in purchasing a plan that does not pay for contraception, sterilization, or in vitro fertilization. Okay. Obviously, the plans have to be consistent with ERDs. They have to be focused on the whole person, which means stewardship. It can't be, as Sister said earlier, just not what we're against or what we're against. It has to be that we're for life. We're for the active stewardship of life, the gift of life, right? So I just said to the fellow that was, here correcting the machinery, he had a Red Bull, and the Red Bull was this big. And I'm a dad. And so I said, son, you're not drinking that thing, are you? Right? But here's the deal, right? And I'll just give you a point of reference. Our employer-based clients, which are Fortune 1000 companies, I got one client that's got a little over $500 million medical spend. A lot of money. The last 5 years, their costs have gone up 1%. right? So $5 million a year, $25 million over 5 years. Their two largest competitors have gone up 10 and 11%, right? That's $50 million a year, a little bit more than $50 million a year for 5 years. That's significant. Why has that happened? Because of the way we designed the plan based upon whole person health and well-being. And though we don't say to the secular employer this is all Christ-centered health care, it is what it is, and we've increased the health of the population. They become engaged. Now, what's one of the most critical things that we need to engage employees in? Becoming actively engaged with their doctor, right? And so we have to solve that problem because that's what? That's the loving relationship. So we have to get to whole person health and well-being. It has to be patient-physician engagement centered, community relationship, and we all understand that healthcare is local. So if you establish a clinic in Colorado, you can impact the whole community in Colorado. Why? Because I did in Colorado? No, because healthcare is local. You take the power of the origin of what it is and you make it something. Okay? So hopefully you're all getting motivated by this a little bit. Okay. Because you can tell I'm passionate, right? Would anybody say that, boy, that guy was dull? He might not be right, but he isn't dull, right? So let's go on to the next page. I'm not going forward, am I? Okay. Catholic healthcare delivery. We've already talked about the whole person need, life-centered need, Christ-centered need. It's supposed to be proactive health, life-giving, not live-giving, okay? But life-giving, which means naprotechnology and fertility. Look at, and this shouldn't be, by the way, something that we just say, is for a particular class of individuals across the society, all right? I want my daughter and my wife to go to the clinics that you all are starting and using, okay, and developing, right? This isn't for someone just in a crisis pregnancy situation. This is for everyone. Well, what does that mean? That means you can make money at it, right? When you do something for the right person, they'll come back and say, Tim, can I help you with that mission? Because you really took care of my wife, and I really appreciate that. And I know the insurance company only paid you such and such, but I'm now in your mission because that was important to us. Or my son or daughter who could not, in fact, conceive, all right? And that's important to me. There's one group out of, on the East Coast, for example, they charge nothing. They're an executive service manager, right? I call them, they'll have a jet come pick me up wherever they want, and they'll take me to Johns Hopkins, or they'll take me to Mayo, or they'll take me anywhere I gotta go, right? Doesn't cost me anything. You got to know that it's there, but what's the model? The model is they save my life, they come back and say, geez, would you like to give to our endowment? Okay? We got to do the same thing. We got to be smart about what we're doing. And quite frankly, there's a couple of businessmen in this group, Tim Von Dolan included, that have the ability to do this, right? And so we all got to work together. Yes, there's the health systems. 2 or 3 of the major Catholic health systems are my clients, right? Ascension Healthcare System, as an example, has over 130, 140,000 employees themselves. They have 23 ministries. They have 120 hospitals, right? Forget the outpatient and the urgent care and all of that. In Michigan, for example, we only have 2 locations geographically that cannot be served by a Catholic hospital. But the politics are incredible. The politics are incredible, right? We've said to the Michigan Catholic Conference, which is very unique, right, because all the bishops belong to it, unlike Texas where you got everybody Now, we do have in Texas a couple of them coming together, and we're going to hear about that later in the whole session, and that's fantastic. But the truth is to get this done requires a tremendous amount of energy, but there is a lot of opportunity. Direct delivery contracting. So, what we establish, do we establish a naprotechnology clinic? Do we establish a primary care clinic? And if it still manages on the time-restricted intensity of the insurance model, expense management model, we will still not have caring. So I have to build a different model. right? I got to be able to give you time. I got to be able to give you ample income. So one of my physician clients, just an example, they've got 20 physicians, about $15 million of revenue, internist group, $750,000 on average a doctor. 58% of that income is overhead expense, 42% therefore is physician income. Those internists are making $300,000 a year, and everybody who knows primary care, you'd say, geez, that's fantastic, David, fantastic, all right? But we're working with models that bring in per physician $2.7 million a year, right? Because we have to double to triple primary care income. How do we do that? Well, there's mechanisms that you have to have in place, but one of those things is we empower the doctor to actually be engaged in health and well-being, actually creating true engagement tools. What do I prescribe a patient if they're healthy? What do you give them? You don't have a pill. You can't give them a pill. You can't go to refer them to the surgeon. You got to give them something. You have to engage them. You have to give them technology. You have to give them reports. You have to be able to get them day by day, week by week engaged in the management of their health. And guess what, Doc? You can get paid for that. Not through the insurance industry, through another mechanism. All right? So this is really important that we do this. But one of the elements is that we got to bring patient load. So we have the physician group there. We have this life clinic there. We have primary care and then NAPRO technology clinic. We got to deliver patients. So we got to go out to employers and we got to bring them into a mainstream environment that gives you patient load. All right? So I'm trying to simply say we have to have a unified, engaged solution, and we also need technology to do that. Now, at the end of the day, then you say yes or no. Am I in or am I not? Okay? So I'm going to ask y'all, are you in? All right, so you're in. You got passion. Then let's go. Let's do it. Right? And we're only going to do it if I take each and every one of you and say, I mean, he is strong. He's really good at that. You know, and I'm lousy at that. Can he help me with that? Right? We got to use each other. So we got to think strategically. We got to knit it together. We got to lead. But we're going to execute one step at a time. So don't get frustrated with that. We're going to create a clinic in Colorado. We're going to create a clinic in Michigan, which we're working on right now, Mike O'Day and some others, and that are going to be here later tomorrow, tonight. But it's one step at a time, each group working individually. But we also have to optimize, right? Where I have already a health system with 12,000 employees and 600 primary care doctors in that community, and somebody who wants to open a NAPRO technology center, and I've already got the ear of the CEO of the hospital, do you think that could help? Yeah. But we got to work together to do that. One community at a time, in community. Okay? So I'm done. That's my talk. But I'm happy to take, as Tim said, do I have any more time or not? Am I out? 2 minutes. I'm going to take some time for some questions. Okay? Because I wanted to give you, and there was a question that was asked of me about what we're actually doing in our company to kind of get around the HHS mandate, which is a position of last resort. It's not ideal, right? But it does give an employer an ability to solve his or her problem that becomes compliant with ACA, which means they can stay in business. I mean, the issue is, right, that if I discontinue my medical plan, what happens? All my employees get thrown out to the exchange and they're engaged, and I'm pushing them out to cooperate with evil, right? And I don't want to do that. I want to take care of my people. My people expect me to take care of them. That's my contract with them, right? And so, you know, that could be a discussion for another time. But go ahead. You have a question? Okay. Questions, if any? Yes, sir. Well, what I would say to you is that, you know, you as an individual don't control the whole political dynamic. What you do is you control what you do. And if you're a doctor and we can give you patients that want whole person care, then let's start there. And if we can start there and we can find a hospital administrator that's partial to our cause, not every Catholic hospital administrator will be, okay? But if we can find that, then we use that underbelly and we say, look, can we actually be on your campus? Will you actually give us a building? You know, we'll actually drive our deliveries into your hospital. Can this be something that actually works for you? But the point is, do it at the point of connection. You got the patient, you got the doctor, you got love, you got caring, you got Christ-centered care. That's where we need to be, and we need to move the health systems in the direction where they see, geez, that group of internists or family practice docs, they now have over 100,000 patients in the community, right? Maybe we start to listen to them. They have volume. The hospitals don't have their own volume. They don't own the marketplace. The employer and the employee relationship, the person who's paying the coin of realm is the employer, right? If we can deliver better care to that population of people, lowering their cost for that group, that community, don't even call it an employer, call it a community of caring, right? It happens to be they're engaged in an economic enterprise. But the truth is they're a community. And we can use that to our advantage if we understand that, and we can deliver that volume to that doc that's practicing the way that we want to see him practice. Now every population will do that. So you offer it to 1,000 employees and only 200 go into your clinic, right? Then we go get the next employer in the community. But I think that if we don't understand that we have to have a whole solution model, that if we think we can just open up a clinic and not be effective or engaged in the marketplace and the business community, we won't succeed. That's my overall comment. There's got to be more questions. Sister. No, listen, hospital administrators understand this, that are really thoughtful. They already know that they're going to fill up less beds. They want to be more out into the whole continuum of care, including even that environment. And quite frankly, as an entrepreneur, right, I'm simply saying, look, which one of you have $30 million that we can go invest in how we actually deliver home care more effectively? We actually go in, put the sterile curtains up, get the TV in, the flat screen in where I can see the doctor. We put the stool in so that we can do the measurements on your bowel movements, all of that. The last place we want the person to be is in the hospital, right? So even in the primary care clinic, have a room for the IV bags. If you've got a patient that comes in dehydrated because they've got the flu or conditions of the flu, don't send them to the hospital where they're going to get infected. Have them go into your room over here, give them the IV bags, and go. Right? The more we can do within that clinic that's life-supporting, right? And listen, I'm not a clinician, right? But we talk to clinicians all the time, and they tell us, what one has a passion for over another. Let's just take this as an example, right? You could get, because of all of this going on, so you could say, listen, I'm going to go into concierge medicine. That's not very Catholic, right? You got to have $2,500, $3,000, $5,000 to pay the guy. Right? So you got this bifurcation. You get all the wealthy people getting great care and all the people that, remember the primary care doc's taking care of 4,000 patients. Now he's taking care of 500. And we don't have enough primary care docs as it is. So we have to have a model that actually can replicate that to some degree, but do that for the masses, right? And so that's Catholic, right? Taking care of everybody. And those are the things we have to think about and think through, and we have to have that kind of global strategy. That's all I'm suggesting, that we as an organization, I'm saying it in this like we are an organization, but we do need to formulate an association or something that absolutely gathers us all together in this process, right? Who's going to put on the next conference? Which one of you, right? Who's going to lead it? This is a challenge for us because, all of this requires time, and we're all getting outside of ourselves to do these things, right? But we do need to come together. So any other questions? I love questions. I hate talking. Yes? Okay, that's a good question, right? And, what I want to do is I want to get away from the insurance commissioner, right? So I want to get away from capitation, right? But let's talk about it academically. In the context of even what's going on in the marketplace. So capitation by itself assumes kind of an HMO model, right? Not to get too, pinheaded here, right? But it assumes that everybody's coming in with a kind of a consistent level of benefit, and therefore I can then negotiate with the physicians on what we will share in terms of risk and set that capitation level. But today you can have varying deductibles, including who are offering qualified deductible plans with health savings accounts, which are great for the marketplace because this really empowers the individual. And as Catholic subsidiarity, we want to do everything in the models that empower the individual to be engaged in the management of their health and well-being, including, exercising true energy within the patient-physician relationship. But saying that, there's two ways to handle capitation in that model, right? Either when the individual comes in with a different plan, there's different capitation rates that are assigned to the plan level, or you simply reimburse the physician at a lower level, and you treat those co-payments and deductible incomes as a kind of a bonus pool across the population. Now let's go to your real question, all right, which is how do we treat capitation in terms of getting more dollars to the physician? Is actually to be away from the insurance industry, all right? So what we actually are doing is we're saying if you're engaged in providing health and wellness engagement, right, we're actually going to pay you for those services that are not reimbursed by the insurance industry directly for that, right? And the point is, if you have 4,000 patients, and I'm getting you another $1,000 a year for each patient that's in this deal, right? And 1,000 of those patients are there, there's $1 million, right? If you're netting $200 stock and there are 1,000 patients, I just gave you $200,000 of real new income, right? But I do want you to be engaged in reviewing the health assessment when you do the annual physical. I do want you to put in the biometric measurements so I don't have a $50 cost for health screenings if you're following all of this. And I do want you to also work with me in terms of how I recover those dollars that would have been otherwise medical billable expenses, but we're doing this to leverage a business model that has doctors and PAs and provides care where you really need it so you can amplify time and passion. Okay, so I'm really speaking in hieroglyphics there, but if you can get all of that, then you got some idea of some of the models.
Hi, I'm Jeff Gardner, and on behalf of the John Paul II Life Center and the Christus Medicus Foundation, thank you for watching this presentation. The need for more crisis pregnancy centers and Christ-centered medical practices throughout the United States is critical and ongoing, and we'd like to encourage you to get involved. Before you do, there are a couple of important takeaways that we'd like to leave you with. First and foremost, develop a strong and clear vision of what it is you want to create. Be sure that you understand the distinctions between a crisis pregnancy center, a family practice clinic, an OB/GYN clinic, a multidisciplinary medical practice, or a sonogram center. Familiarize yourself, too, with the not-for-profit laws as they pertain to healthcare in your state. John Paul II Life Center operates within the state of Texas. Your laws may vary. Also, before you begin either to explore a crisis pregnancy center or a Christ-centered medical practice, get the blessing of your bishop. Get a committed and unified board. If you can, get the cooperation of your local Catholic hospital. Organize and identify physicians who can be key in helping you getting your project off the ground. Develop a strategic plan, and within it include the right professionals, those that you'll need to advise you in all aspects of your endeavor. Familiarize yourself with the fundamentals of fundraising, communication, and education. Everyone involved does not need to know how to do everything, but everyone involved should know about everything that needs to be done. To open a Christ-centered medical practice, understand the financial operations of a clinic. When considering the financial arrangements needed to establish a clinic, it has been our experience that the first-year costs, including salaries, is a minimum of $500,000 and can be supported by a recruitment agreement for a physician with a cooperating hospital. Also, care should be taken to consult with an appropriate practice management company to assist you in setting up the medical clinic and to get the correct assistance with licensing, credentialing for hospital privileges, and third-party contracts, as well as billing and collections with the best electronic medical records and healthcare information technology available. Right now, a national platform is under development to include a service company that will help take advantage of economies of scale so medical clinics and pro-life centers across the United States can be created. For more information, please contact us at Kimberly@jpiilifecenter.org. That's Kimberly at jpiilifecenter.org.